so this is the new volume, volume 38. The theme is love and compassion. And today we are going to study SD 38.1, Kakachu Pama Sutta. It's from the Majjhima Nikaya, volume, the Majjhima Nikaya Sutta 21. Kakachu Pama Sutta translates as the discourse on the parable of the saw. Now this sutta is one of the most scary suttas. God talks about, as you know, the parable of the saw. You'll find out what the saw is used for in a while. Okay? And it's talking about patience, compassion, especially for a monastic, right? Of course, it's very difficult for us to follow the teachings of the sutta, as you will soon discover. But it's a very important guideline for us to show how non-violence is very important in human history. If you want to know the history of non-violence in India, for example, where the Buddha comes from, this is the kind of sutta that is one of the very important roots of that kind of idea, the idea of non-violence, ahimsa, okay, which Gandhi and others have been inspired by. And if you can even say that it is through the practice of non-violence that India won their independence just a year before I was born, I think 1948, isn't it? So this is one of those suttas where the Buddha clearly talks about being non-violent no matter what happens, even at the loss of lives, our own lives. So this is one of those really strong, powerful ideas. Of course, such ideas, to say the least, are controversial. Controversial why? Very difficult to practice, but not impossible. So this is where teachers like the Buddha, they come up with very high ideals for us to follow. And ideals need to be high, they need to be perfect, so that even though we cannot completely follow them, at least we can be guided by this kind of idea of non-violence. You know? And this sutta is full of parables, very interesting comparisons, because this idea is a very difficult idea, so there are many comparisons and parables and other styles of teaching. So it's quite a long sutta, so we'll go straight into it. The sutta starts on page 12. The discourse on the parable of the saw, M21. Thus have I heard. At one time the Blessed One was staying in Anathapindika's park in Jeta's Grove near Savatthi. So this location is of course quite well known. Now once we see the Buddha living in Savatthi, this sutta probably belongs to the second period, as we say. The second period, that means sometime during the last 25 years of the Buddha's ministry, where he mostly lived in Savatthi. Today in India the place is called Sahib Mahek. According to the commentary, this sutta was taught because one of the monks lacked patience, and so this teaching was given to teach patience. Now at that time, the Venerable Modiya Paguna was dwelling too intimately with the nuns. This was how the Venerable Modiya Paguna was with the nuns. If anyone should speak, or anyone were to speak ill of the nuns before him, he would disapprove and be angry, and make an issue of it. If anyone were to speak ill of the Venerable Modiya Paguna before the nuns, they would disapprove and be angry, and make an issue of it. The Venerable Modiya Paguna dwelt in intimacy with the nuns. So the story opens with this monk who is very close to the nuns. So here again, we know the nuns, order of nuns exists. That means more or less we got to know the period when the nuns were introduced. We don't know the exact year, but we might say definitely after the maybe first 10 years of the Buddha's ministry. So here is where this Paguna is one of the monks, and it's called Moliya because when he was a layman, he had this tuft of hair on the head, which is called Moli. So probably belonged to a Brahmin caste. And even as a monk, he was close to the nuns, and not only close, but they're very defensive of each other. The monks, the monk, this Paguna, would be very defensive of the nuns, and the nuns were very protective of him. So they were too close, and obviously they won't be able to practice well. So this is when this news came to the Buddha. Usually some monks will tell the Buddha, okay, this is what's happening. Then the Buddha will call up the monk. So this is what happens in the next section. And so you look at section 4. Then the Blessed One addressed the certain monk. Because this certain monk is, he's asking, the Buddha asked him to summon Molya. So come now, Bhikshu. Bhikshu means monk. Summon the monk Molya Paguna with these words of mine. The teacher, Avuso Paguna, summons you. Yes, Bhante, replied the monk. And he went off to invite Paguna to see the Buddha. So Paguna comes before the Buddha. And then the Buddha asks him, is it true? The monks are saying that you're very close to the nuns, and the nuns are very close to you, and you both will get very upset if anybody comments on you. And Paguna says, yes. So here we see at least everyone is truthful, okay? And then the teaching begins. 5.2. Now, Paguna, are you not a son of a family who is a renunciant, gone forth out of faith from home for the homeless life, right? This is a traditional way of asking. Right? You are a son of family. In other words, you come from a well-to-do, good family, and now you have become a monk. But you're not a monk, right? So, yes, Bhante. So here again you see the Buddha beginning with the most obvious fact. This person is a monk. Paguna, it is not proper for a son of family who is a renunciant, gone forth out of faith from the home into the homeless, should dwell so intimately with the nuns. Therefore, Paguna, even if someone were to speak ill of the nuns in your presence, on such an occasion, Paguna, you should abandon any householder's desire, any householder's thought. On such an occasion, Paguna, you should train yourself thus. This is the training. My heart will be unperverted in any way, nor shall I utter any bad speech, but I shall dwell with a heart of loving kindness, moved by goodness without a hating heart. This is how you should train yourself. Okay? So this is the key passage on the training of loving kindness, basically. Right? The definition of loving kindness. So now you notice here the Buddha is giving the teaching, and something interesting is happening or not going to happen. You're going to watch that. I'm going to point out to you if you did notice it. Then in the following section, you see the Buddha teaching him what is called a gradual sequence of suffering, stages of increasing suffering. To be patient, even though people hurt us. So in other words, here the Buddha says something we have a pattern to follow, to be very patient. 6.3. Therefore, Paguna, if anyone in your presence were to strike those nuns with a hand, or hurl a clod of earth at them, or hit them with a stick, or strike them with a weapon. See, strike with a weapon, but not killing, just kind of hit them. On such an occasion, you should abandon any householder's desire, any householder's thought. In other words, do not think like a layman. Do not be violent. Do not get upset. Instead, you should show loving kindness. Everything is repeated. This section above, right at the top of the page, 5.1, right? To show loving kindness. So can you imagine, someone is striking the nuns. This monk said, you must show them loving kindness. Don't fight back. Don't turn it into a big fight. So you can imagine the life of monks and nuns are really, it's very difficult. They're not supposed to fight back. The question is, why should anyone attack monks or nuns in the first place, right? So this is, in other words, if monks and nuns keep their rules properly, they behave properly, they have a lot of loving kindness, nobody would dare to hit them. You know that I've heard stories in Thailand, those years when the country was very unstable, and there are communists in the jungles. And the monks still go in the jungles themselves. So sometimes some authorities would warn the monks, say, please don't go in, there are communists. The monk would just smile and say, well, we're not communists. We are not involved in politics. And we're not afraid to die. The thing is, because monks are non-violent, they are by nature non-political, And so wherever they go, everyone respects them, even the communists. And this interesting thing about the communists in Thailand, they are also religious. So they see these monks in the forest, they respect the monks also. So this is where, because they know the monks are non-violent. And of course they know if they were to be hurt in any way, the monks will help them. The monks help anyone who is hurt. As long as you're a human being, doesn't matter what kind of political ideas or ideals that you have. So, on the other hand, if people do hate a monk or a nun, we have the Buddha's teaching to the monks is not to get into a fight. Remember, this teaching is for a monk or a nun, right? So for lay people, we can intervene if we want to, right? Of course, we can intervene in the proper way, okay? But that's another story, because that's not the point of the story. Yeah? Then, 6.5. Therefore, Paguna, even if anyone were to strike you with the hand, or hurl a clod of earth at you, or hit you with a stick, or strike you with a weapon, you should not behave like a layman, you should not have all these negative thoughts, but show your loving kindness. Right? So this is the first teaching, not to react violently against violence. And this is what exactly people like Gandhi did. Okay? And this is what people like Aung San Suu Kyi did. This is what people like Mandela did. They use non-violence. And that's what makes them great. That's why we respect them. Then the Buddha introduces a new teaching. You can see the heading there, the monks who take only 1 meal a day. You might say, what's the connection? We're going to find out now. 7.1. The Blessed One did address the monks. Now, why did the Buddha address the monks? One possible reason is because Arjuna did not respond. Although the Buddha was teaching him, he did not agree with the Buddha, so to speak. So you find even in the Buddha's time, there are cases where monks can be disobedient. Because this was a later time. Remember, as I said, this is the second period of the Buddha's 45 years. There's a time when the Buddha allowed even unawakened people to become monks and nuns. So can you imagine how difficult that is? They're not any kind of saints yet. In the first 10 years, first 20 years, especially first 10 years, people became saints. The Buddha said something, someone comes to see the Buddha, and then they became stream winners, Vasudhanas, Naughtiness, and Arahats. And then they automatically, by the fact that they have attained the levels of awakening, they became saints and became monks. They were saints, so they automatically became monks and nuns. But after that, the Buddha allowed the monks to ordain other people, even though they're not awakened, so that they have a chance to live as monks and practice and then work their way towards sainthood. And because the Buddha allowed that, the Sangha survives up to this day. There are monks and nuns up to this day. Even today, people can still ordain if they want to. Right? So this is a compassion of the Buddha. But there is a cost to this compassion. There are some people who became monks and nuns and didn't really keep to the rules. So the Buddha was very patient. The Buddha went on teaching them, encouraging them, so that they do not give up. In other words, the Buddha will let them remain in the Sangha no matter what, unless they break the 4 big rules. You know? They had sex, or they killed somebody, or they stole something, or they falsely claim they have superpowers. Otherwise, they can stay on, they will be rehabilitated, they'll be taught the Dharma and so on. They go for retreats so that they can correct themselves. So this is where you see a case where the Buddha teaches someone who was not responsive. And this is not the only occasion. There are many other occasions where the Buddha taught the Dharma and the audience doesn't seem to respond. And this is important for us because even today, sometimes when we teach the Dharma, we teach our friends or people who come to us, they say they have a problem, then we tell them something, say, okay, this is what you should do. But they're not really listening. They come up with another problem. So listening is a great difficulty sometimes for some people. That is why we have Buddhist studies like this, we have Buddhist talks, we have tapings so people can listen at the right time. We'll try to tell them the Dharma. So the Dharma must be presented in a way where people can remember it, where people can live it, in other words. So moments like this are very important times in our lives where we can absorb certain wisdom of the Buddha, and one day all this wonderful learning and joy will tell us what to do with our lives, and will help us to get out of difficulties that we fall into, and to help others who are in difficulties. So in the next section, the Buddha says, 7.1, second line, "Now bhikshus, there was a time when the monks pleased my heart. Here I address the monks thus, bhikshus, I take only a single session meal. Taking a single session meal, bhikshus, I am free from illness and affliction and enjoy health and strength and dwell in comfort. Come now, bhikshus, you too, take only a single session meal. Taking a single session meal, bhikshus, you too will be free from illness and affliction and enjoy health and strength and dwell in comfort." There was no real need of my instructing those monks, bhikshus. I had only to rouse mindfulness in them. So here the Buddha says, he tells the monks, so you just need one meal a day. Okay? And of course this meal normally will be any time between sunrise and dawn and noon. Okay? Now, what is the benefit of taking just one meal a day for the monks? They have good health. They have enough food because they're not physically active like the farmers, so they can stay alert and awake. Number two, why they have only one meal a day is also not to be a burden to the lay people who are supporting them, and of course for health. No? So there was a time when the monks did this one meal a day, but later the Buddha in his compassion allowed the monks to have breakfast also, so to speak, that they can have a light meal or a meal in the morning and then one more meal lunchtime, so at the most perhaps 2 meals. Normally the monks would be between, but in reality you see the monks, they do work a lot, so maybe between breakfast and lunch they have a bit of biscuit and drink maybe. So this is the modern monastic practice, kind of established temple with lots of monks and nuns. But in those monks live in the forest, they have no attendants, they live by themselves, all alone, so they live very simple lives. And they are very strong because they walk all the way in the jungle and you got this fresh air. You know, I mean, living in the city like Singapore, we can get tired quite easily, even though you stay in a comfortable house. But then when you go to, let's say, countryside, Fraser's Hill, Cameron Highlands, or some beautiful place overseas, you find the mountain air, the forest air is so invigorating. So the forest is this way of making you feel really good and fresh. Now you only need to go to Kota Tinggi, there's a waterfall there. You just stay near the waterfall, you play around the waterfall, you can feel the wonderful energy of the falling water and the hills. Of course now you've got to pay 10 ringgit to go in. Those days it's free of charge. But it's a great place to go, one of those places where you can get this natural energy. So why did the Buddha mention these monks eating one meal a day? It's because if they are able to just limit their food, they won't have all this extra energy to be exuberant and socializing with the nuns and so on. Alright? Then the Buddha goes on to give another parable dealing with mindfulness here. The parable of the chariot and the skilled chariot here. Notice here, it comes just after the Buddha saying, I had only to rouse mindfulness in them. In other words, all the Buddha needed was just to tell them, be mindful, meditate, and they would do it. So look at the parable. The parable reinforces what the Buddha said. Suppose, bhikshus, there was a chariot on good level ground at crossroads, harnessed to the thoroughbreds, with a whip on the slant. Whip on the slant, that means the whip to make the horse go faster. It's just right there, slanting in the slot. Right? At the ready, so that a skilled charioteer, a trainer of tameable horses, might mount and taking the reins in his left hand and the whip in his right, drive out and back to whatever place or by whatever road he likes. Okay, this is the parable. Then the Buddha explains the meaning of the parable. Even so. It begins with the word even so. Bhikshus, there was no need of my instructing those monks, bhikshus. I had only to rouse mindfulness in them. So here, not only the Buddha just need to tell them so easy, they also can get into meditation very easily. So this is the parable of the chariot. In modern time, we say we have a nice car, good roads, right? Great highways, good engine, good driver, right? And you can just anytime turn on your car, ignition key, and just drive off, and then come back anytime. Very easy, very convenient. So in other words, the monks can just anytime get into their mindfulness state, meditation state, and come out of it. Right? So this is the parable of the chariot. The chariot is, you might say, the mind, and the smooth road is the practice. And then there is the famous parable of the sal tree. Now this parable talks about the danger of not being mindful. Sometimes small little things can get us into big trouble. So we got to nip the problems in the bud. 8.1. Therefore, bhikshus, abandon the unwholesome. Unwholesome here refers to any kind of thing that make our mind troubled, unable to focus, unhappy, and so on. Normally, there are three of them: right? Greed, hate, delusion. And you add a fourth one to be fear. Okay? Devote yourselves to the cultivation of wholesome states. Wholesome states would be opposite of this: charity, loving kindness, wisdom, and courage. For that is how you will attain growth, abundance, full development in this Dharma Vinaya, teaching and discipline. That's how you progress, become awakened. Suppose bhikshus, now comes a parable. Suppose bhikshus, there was a great sal forest, not far from a village or market town, and it was covered by castor oil plants. Now there was a man desiring the good, the welfare, the freedom from bondage of those plants. So this man is a forest man. So he's taking care of the forest. So maybe it's the king's forest. So, the sal trees, they grow straight up. And the flowers shoot right out from the branches. Beautiful flowers like giant cherries. But when there are castor oil plants, they're not very high. They're short plants, but they will sap away the energy of the soil, and so that the sal tree will be affected and stunted. So this man will remove the castor oil plants. Having cut away the bent plants that sap away the sal trees, he would throw them outside and then clear out the interior of the forest. Then he would take care of the sal plants so that they grow up straight and well. That is how bhikshus, the sal forest, would in time attain growth, abundance, full development. So the sal tree goes straight up. This represents the meditator's mind, straight to focus, straight to watching the breath and so on. And these castor oil plants are like the hindrances that distract the meditator. They are to be removed. Now comes a very humorous parable. This is meant to be taken with a light touch, so to speak. It's a story about a woman slave who, in a sense, disrespected the mistress, if you like. And this also shows that in the Buddha's time, yes, there was slavery, but the slaves of the Buddha's time had more freedom than the, what you call these workers who are contracted. You see, these slaves, they can become slaves usually through debt. They owe the family some money, so they have to become, sometimes the money is so big, so they become slaves their whole lives. Even their whole family might end up as slaves of the family. Or they are conquered by other people. So these slaves, they are part of the family. So in fact, the Buddha teaches the family to make sure they are treated as part of the family. So in other words, a slave can tell the mistress or the master, say, I can't work today, I'm sick, I'm tired. And they have the right to say that. Whereas a worker who is contracted cannot say that. I mean, if you employ someone, you pay the money, the person says, I can't work today, I have a headache. You can't do that, you see. So the slave has a bit more freedom. But this particular woman slave took much more freedom than the normal one. Okay, let's look at what she does. 9.1. Notice that it starts with once upon a time. So this is a kind of like a Jataka story. bhikshus, in this very same city, there was a house lady or householder's wife named Vehedika. Bhikshus, the house lady Vehedika's good reputation has spread about us. The house lady Vehedika is gentle, the house lady Vehedika is humble, the house lady Vehedika is calm. So this woman has become famous for her calmness and patience and so on. Then this house slave by the name of Kali, she was capable, diligent, and careful in her work. And then this thought came to her. Our house lady's good reputation has been spread about, and then those are the qualities. 9.3, she says, what now? Is there any anger within my lady? Only that she does not show it? Or is there really not? Or is it that these tasks of mine have been carefully done so that my lady is calm, but there is actually anger in her, and only that she does not show? Or is there really not? What now if I investigate, right? So she's a kind of quite a lady full of initiative. She says, let's find out, this my mistress, is she really patient or is she just pretending, So, 9.4. Then bhikshus, the woman slave Kali woke up late in the day. Normally, the slave, they to get up early before the sun rises, before the master, mistress rise up, before the house rises up. Then bhikshus, the house lady Vedika said this to the woman slave, hey you Kali, what is it madam? What's this? You got up late in the day. And then she replies, it's nothing at all madam. Okay. Okay. So, nothing's the matter indeed. You bad slave, you got up late. She was angry, displeased, and frowning. Okay, so she just frowned. It's the first case. She didn't do anything, just frowned. And then bhikshus, this occurred to the woman slave Kali. Although my lady shows no anger, it is still present within her, not absent. And it is simply not because of these tasks of mine have been carefully done that the lady showed no anger, although it is present within her, not absent. What now if I were to examine my lady a little more? So she says, okay, this lady, she didn't get angry, she just scolded me only. But although she doesn't have hatred and violence, I think there's still some anger in her. Let's test whether really any anger or not. So this time she got up even later in the day. Then bhikshus, the house lady Vedika said this to the woman slave Kali. Hey you Kali, what is it madam? What's this? You got up even later in the day. And then she said, it's nothing madam again, She's not too worried, she's testing the mistress. Nothing's the matter indeed, you bad slave, you got up even later. She was angry, displeased, and this time she utters words of displeasure. Notice, first she just frowned, okay, and then she really scolded her very badly, the second round. So then the slave thought, this time she just showed verbally only, okay? Let's see whether she got more anger in her, she's really that bad. So the third time she got up later still, Same thing happened, The mistress asked, why you got up so late? She said, oh, it's nothing, And then this time the lady got very upset. Look at the 9.8, the last two lines. Nothing's the matter indeed, you bad slave. You got up even later in the day. She was angry, displeased, and taking a door bolt, struck her head and cut it. Now, a door bolt is probably a long stick which, you lock the door. So this time she showed violence. So here you see, this one is a negative sequence, increasing violence. Right? It shows that this lady, although she is very nice, but in reality inside her she still has anger. So these are all kind of like a warning system. The Buddha is telling us, you should not just exteriorly, externally show that you're calm, but internally also you have to be calm. So this very cunning slave goes around telling people, the house lady Vedika is fierce, the house lady Vedika is not humble, she's not calm, and so spreading around, telling people. So here again you see, the voice of the public is important in the Buddha's time. Even a slave can complain to the people, so to speak. And it's important that people like the lady Vedika look good in the eyes of people. So you have this kind of a very human kind of situation. the point of the story here, of course, is non-violence. That you must be non-violent externally as well as internally. So it's a funny story, but it's meant to drive home this point of being patient, being non-angry, being full of loving kindness, externally showing people, and also internally your true self. Now then, next point about the false front. So, right, so here this is in the Sutta's own words. Even so, bhikshus, here a certain monk appears to be very gentle, very humble, very calm, as long as no disagreeable words touches him. As long as people don't scold him, don't say nasty things, they appear calm. But when someone says something nasty, like for example, in the case of the nuns and the monk, then the monk will get upset. So here we all know very well the Buddha is addressing this monk, Molya Paguna, right? He says that the monk should be tractable. Tractable meaning he must be able to learn, willing to learn. 10.2, bhikshus, I do not call a monk tractable, easily admonished, or makes himself tractable for the sake of robe, alms, food, lodging, and support for the sick and medicinal supplies. Why is that? Because bhikshus, when a monk does not receive robes, alms, food, lodging, and support for the sick and medicinal supplies, he is not tractable. He does not make himself tractable. So in other words, you should not pretend to be kind and respectful and good at listening just because you want the four supports of life. Food, shelter, lodging, and health. Right? And then when you have these things already or you can't get these things, then you show your anger. That's not the way of a monastic. Right? In other words, whether you get support or not, you are still calm. You are at peace with yourself. So the tractable monk is like that. The tractable monk, the teachable monk, the respectful monk respects the Dharma. Right? So you notice 10.4, only in honoring the Dharma, respecting the Dharma, esteeming the Dharma, venerating the Dharma, revering the Dharma, we shall be tractable or make ourselves tractable. This is how bhikshus you should train yourselves. So in one short line, we must respect the Dharma. This applies to everybody. When we come here, when we bow down in front of the Buddha, we bow down before the monk, we bow to each other. Who or what are we bowing to? We are respecting the Dharma. We are respecting the Dharma. When we bow before the Buddha, how do we respect the Dharma? We recall to mind, we say, oh, this is our wonderful teacher who brought the Dharma into the world. And now, because of his hard work and wisdom, the Dharma has come down to us. We bow to the monk. How do we bow to the Dharma while before the monk? We say, well, this monk, he lives his life according to the Dharma, so that we are reminded of renunciation, and we are reminded of the Buddha's teaching. Then we bow to our friends and colleagues. Right? We put our palms together. It's not that you're more important, so I bow to you. Anyone can bow to anyone first. Because when we bow, we say, you can become better than what you are. One day you become a great person. One day you become a great teacher. One day you might even get awakened. So I'm bowing down to that wonderful potential inside you, that goodness inside you. So, and when you are reminded that way, you also feel, say, wow, these people respect me, and I have to be worthy of this respect. So this is one very wonderful way of living Buddhism. And then next section is on the 5 paths of speech, how we use our speech properly. 11.1, bhikshus, there are these 5 paths of speech that others use to speak to you. That is to say, timely or untimely, true or false, gentle or harsh, connected with the good or connected with the goal or unconnected with the goal, here meaning awakening, with loving kindness or with a hating heart. 5 kinds of speeches that you and I will face. When others speak with you, bhikshus, they might speak in a timely manner or in an untimely manner. Or they might speak to you in any of these other ways. Right? What does this mean? Sometimes people come to us and talk to us at the wrong time, very inconvenient. Still, we show them loving kindness. Don't show them anger. Try to be patient. Sometimes people tell us things which are not true. we also be patient with them. Sometimes there are things which are true but painful, useless. Yeah? Sometimes people talk to us gently, that's fine. Sometimes people talk to us in a harsh way. Again, we try to be very patient with them. We try to understand why they are like that. Sometimes people talk to us about things which are connected with the goal, which is fine, meaning connected with the practice of the Dharma, the goal of attaining awakening. But sometimes they talk other things, not related to the Dharma or to the temple. So to be patient with them. Sometimes people talk to us with loving kindness, with kindness. Sometimes they talk to us without loving kindness, with hate, with anger. Again, you've got to be patient, show them loving kindness. So be prepared. These are the 10 ways people can talk to us. So what should we do? 11.3 is the instruction. Therein bhikshus. Okay, this one addressed to us also. You should train yourself thus. Our hearts will be unperverted. Unperverted, that means not lost, not confused. Will be not perverted in any way. Nor shall we utter any bad speech, but we shall dwell with a heart of loving kindness, moved by goodness without a hating heart. And we will dwell pervading that person with a heart attended by loving kindness. So this means you directly in your mind, you send this thought to this person before you, who is unhappy, trying to cause trouble. This is one way to calm the person down. And based on that, or beginning there, we will dwell pervading the whole world with a heart attended by loving kindness, vast, grown great, boundless, free from hate, free from ill will. So just spread it all around, just be filled with loving kindness. The world here means what? All your senses, your whole being, send it outwards. This practice is also very important for teachers. You know, as Dharma teacher, you find people come to us with all these kind of speeches. So we have to be very patient, show them loving kindness. Because that's our job. And that's not just our job, it is the lifestyle, the training of a Buddhist. Right? Because whenever someone comes to us with this kind of behavior, it's a chance to train ourselves. Of course, everything is nice if I'm starting to train. No? It's when sometimes people say the wrong things to us, then we begin to respond. Then we realize where we need to strengthen ourselves and so on. So difficult situations are very good times for us to learn about ourselves. If we fail, it's okay, but don't stop there. You've got to look back, examine, why did I fail? Where did I go wrong? What should I do to correct this? Then you'll be wiser. So this is how as we mature, we don't just grow old, we all grow old, but not everyone grows wiser. Not everybody grows up. We grow old, but not everybody grows up. We must also grow up. We must also be wiser in the ways. Now there's another parable. This is to show the power of loving kindness, and also how if you are good, you cannot really measure the goodness. Suppose, bhikshus, a man were to come along bringing a hoe, changko, and a basket. This is a wide basket for carrying earth. I don't know if you've seen this or not. And what to say? I will make this whole earth to be normal earth. He would digging up here and there, strewing earth about here and there, spitting it on it here and there, peeing on it here and there. Say, this will be normal, be earth. This will normal be earth. This will normal be earth. What do you think, bhikshus? Would this man be able to make this earth normal earth? Not at all. What is the reason for this? This great earth, Bhante, said the monks, is deep, not to be measured. It would not be easy to make her normal earth. In due course, he would only have his share of weariness and disappointment. It is impossible to dig up the whole earth. Right? So our loving kindness also must be like that. Boundless, cannot be measured. No one can stop us, prevent us from doing this. It's something we can do ourselves. Just as we cannot dig up the whole earth, we should cultivate loving kindness. Because loving kindness also is immeasurable, like the earth. do not let anyone take away goodness from us. So you must tell yourself, I am like the earth. People can dig up and dig up and dig up, they still cannot dig up the whole earth away. So my loving kindness will not disappear, will not be lost that way. So this is a kind of a visualization. No? And then the refrain. So the Buddha says, anyone who talks to you in these 5 ways, timely speech, untimely speech, true or untrue, gentle, harsh, connected with the goal or not connected with the goal, with loving kindness or without loving kindness, you will be like this earth. Right? It's a similar, very similar meditation like the one which the Buddha gave to Rahula, right? But this one's a bit more powerful, no? So to speak. Another picture, another parable. The parable of drawing pictures in space. Suppose bhikshus, a person were to come along with lac, or turmeric, or cloud grey, or crimson. And these are the colors they knew in the Buddha's time. They could make it natural, you know. And you can see the note 96 tell you, lac is a reddish dye. Turmeric is, of course, haladi is yellow. And you have sky blue or indigo, nila. And then crimson is called magenta. Magenta is the color on the Buddhist flag, the orange kind of color. Right? So someone comes along with these colors, and this person says, I will paint a picture in space or in the air. I will create a form. Do you think this is possible? Of course this is not possible. Right? The air is formless. Right? So my mind also is formless. My loving kindness is formless. Nobody can color it or take it away or disturb it. Right? So reflect like that. My mind will not be disturbed in any way. My mind is like this space. My loving kindness is like space. So that kind of way of reflecting. So again, the refrain is repeated. Right? Anyone talks to you in these different ways which are not helpful, you respond with loving kindness. Next parable. Parable of trying to boil the Ganges river. 16. Suppose bhikshus, a man were to come bringing along a blazing grass torch, and he were to say, with this blazing grass torch, I will heat up the river Ganges and boil it away. Is that possible? Of course not, because this Ganges river is deep and unfathomable. Cannot be measured. So my mind, my loving kindness also is like this big, huge river. Because Singapore, we say Singapore River is the biggest one we have. So, of course, Singapore River you can measure it somehow, but still very big. But my loving kindness will be unfathomable. Nobody can take it away. So this is a kind of, you reassure yourself. So you build up your loving kindness. Choose your favorite imagery, in other words. Now then you have another, next parable, the cat skin bag. Another trouble when I saw the word cat skin. What a terrible, how they didn't skin the cat. And I look up the Oxford English Dictionary. It says cat skin actually is an inferior kind of silk. So it's not really skin of a cat. I hope not anyway. So the parable is this. This very famous parable, a bag made of cat skin, is very smooth, very soft. Just like a cat skin. So it says someone comes along with a piece of broken shard. You know, a shard is a piece of like a pot, it's broken and you take a piece. And just try to stroke this smooth cat skin bag. Will it make any sound? It won't make any sound. Just smooth and very easy to you cannot ruffle it, in other words. So also, when we practice loving kindness, our mind will not be unruffled. It will be smooth and easy, like someone stroking the cat skin bag. These are well-known objects in the Buddha's time, right? So we use for reflection, so that our mind is strong. Now, you see, so far, so we have come to the end already. Now you come to the most difficult of the parables. This is the most difficult parable that I know throughout all the suttas. And here it comes, right at the end of the sutta. No? Notice 19.3, the last line says, this is how bhikshus, you should train yourself. Right? There are 4 or 5 parables just now, but this last one is here. Number 20, section 20. Bhikshus, Even if low-down thieves want to cut you up from limb to limb with a double-handed saw, okay, this double-handed saw is a kakacha, okay? If you were to defile your mind with anger, you are thereby not a doer of my teaching. Imagine the Buddha said, even if you think anger in your mind, just think, you are not practicing what I taught. So if someone hurts you, you should not even have negative thoughts in your mind. Why? Because you have negative thoughts, they will lead to negative speech, negative action. In fact, if someone will hurt you, I mean, what could be worse than cutting people in half with a sword? If anyone does something negative to you, you do not have a negative mind, you will survive. You will not be troubled by it. You will listen more clearly what this person has to say, you begin to understand why this person is troubled, and you will not be affected. Now, I'm not saying this is easy, especially when we're not awakened, but if you try this, it becomes easier. In fact, what you will notice is compassion will arise in you. You begin to, if you do not show hatred, you show loving kindness first to this person who's trying to hurt you, saying nasty things. Next thing is you start thinking, why this person behaves like this? Then you realize, wow, obviously this person is not happy, this person has some other issues maybe. So I really show my compassion to this person. Remember, compassion is kindness shown to people even when they do not deserve it. So this is second Brahma-vihara, second divine approach. Okay? So this is a way where we can strengthen ourselves, in other words. This is for the peaceful Buddhist practitioner, okay? For a peaceful human being. And the great leaders who follow this will bring great peace to the world. And they become names which history will remember. And history will praise, and there will be models for other people to follow. Right? There are people who follow Alexander the Great, the way of power. There are those who follow the way of the Buddha and Gandhi, the way of peace. Which one is more helpful to us? Right? We need more peace. So the Buddha continues, therein, bhikshus, you should train yourself in this way. Our hearts will be unperverted in any way, nor shall we utter any bad speech, but we shall dwell with a heart of loving kindness, moved by goodness without a hating heart. And we will dwell pervading that person with a heart attended by loving kindness. And based on that, we will dwell pervading the whole world with a heart attended by loving kindness. Vast, grown great, boundless, free from hate, free from ill will. This is how, bhikshus, you should train yourselves. If, bhikshus, this exhortation on the parable of the saw were to be borne in mind constantly by you, would you see any cause of speech trivial or gross that you could not endure? Right? I mean, if you understand this teaching, you can endure any kind of talk, bad talk people throw at you. No problem, right? So imagine, this is really bad. So imagine, if you understand this, you're not more afraid. People can say anything to you, you're calm. Therefore, bhikshus, constantly keep in mind this exhortation on the parable of the saw. It will be for your good and happiness for a long time. The Blessed One said this. The monks joyfully approve of the Blessed One's word. So the sutta ends there, right? All right, so now, question time or any discussion you like? Is anything to ask? You can ask general questions also. Timing is just nice, huh? I was thinking it might take a longer time to show. Yes?
Why do people become monks? Why they want to become monks? What is the purpose of being a monk?
Well, when the Buddha allowed the monks to be ordained, the idea was to facilitate them, to give them the best conditions to enter nirvana. That is the simplest answer, historically speaking. To renounce is to take the highway to nirvana, to arahathood, or at least stream winning. Okay? The more important answer where we can include lay people like you and I, because if I say nirvana, many of us say, oh, I don't think I can do that in this life, right? And so an easy answer, in fact a more important answer, would be to understand the meaning of renunciation. Nekkhamma, renunciation. Renunciation is not the change of uniform. It's not the change of a hairstyle. I mean, anyone can shave their hair and then wear yellow robes, you know. You won't know. You go in the street, you think it's a monk. You know, I have one elderly friend. Whenever you see yellow robe on the road, you will quickly go up to him, bow down, and be very nice to him and pick him up, bring him somewhere. You know. I said, how do you know he's a real monk or not? You know, you got to check first of all. Doesn't mean anyone walking on the road wearing a yellow cloth, shaven head is a monk. You do not know really whether he's a bona fide monk or not. You know, because there's a way of knowing them. You can ask them, how many years are you a monk? Who is your teacher? Where are you from? And of course, you must know all these facts. In other words, basically, the person must tell you happily. He won't get angry if you ask. These are questions anyone can ask. Otherwise, you won't know who this person is. You know, I mean, it could be simply someone, a con man. You know, is going around just collecting money, as we know. Well, these things happen in Singapore and Malaysia. So the person will tell, okay, I'm so many years a monk, 5 years or 10 years or more. If less than that, you should not be wandering around alone. And he will tell you in which monastery he's staying, which temple he's staying, and who is his teacher, right? So, of course, they can also tell you things which are not true. There's another thing, so you've got to be very careful. So, in other words, it's not just changing uniform. Renunciation, in the real sense of the word, means letting go. Vosaka. Vosaka is the word, Pali word, meaning letting go. And we do this whenever we meditate. You know, occasionally I talk to people now, I'm beginning to hear this coming back. People telling me, you know, yes, I understand now, you know. Actually, when we meditate, we are also letting go. So whenever you meditate, you are practicing the real letting go, the real renunciation. Number one, when you sit quietly, you calm your mind, you close your eyes, you're letting go of the body. Then when your body is calm, you don't have to trouble about your movements, your body anymore, you're very calm, you let go of feelings. Feeling of liking, disliking, you just sit quietly. So you let go of feelings. Next, you let go of your thoughts. Because thoughts come by way of distractions, right? So, and once you are able to let go of your thoughts, your distraction, then you have attained mental peace, this wonderful moment. Maybe just for a split second you felt really good, very peaceful. That's very good already. You know, the Buddha said 1 split second an hour time you just take to pull the cow's teat to milk it, and you spend that time meditating, you practice the Buddha's teaching. So imagine you just sit quietly and then you get this wonderful, happy feeling. You have practiced the Buddha's teaching. You have experienced peace. You have renounced the world for that moment. And then you come out of the world again. I mean, you come back to the world. Okay, because we are dead people, right? So we can renounce whenever we meditate. You don't need to be a monk or a nun in that sense. This is the real renunciation. The spiritual renunciation, not the religious renunciation. So the purpose of renunciation is to be happy, to get peace of mind. Right, so this is the meaning. Huh? Any other question?
Yeah.
Yes?
After the Buddha acknowledged Guna,
Yes.
did he continue to stay near the nuns?
The impression I get here, because notice that at the end of the sutta, nothing is mentioned. It doesn't say, oh, Paguna is happy. It just says the monks are happy.
Yeah.
So you notice here, so what the Buddha has done was, he has taken the example of Paguna, and now he addresses the monks. Because Paguna is still a little stubborn or doesn't want to change, so he tells the monks. So nothing is lost. Of course, we do not know what happens to Paguna later on. There are cases where, for example, in the case of Sunakata, the Buddha refused to show his magical powers, so he said, oh, you Buddha got no powers, and he gave up the monkhood, you know, he joined other groups and started talking bad about the Buddha. So there are cases like that. So sometimes there's no record of them changing. But I suspect anyone who has met the Buddha, to meet the Buddha, he must have done really wonderful good karma, and to be able to get any teachings from him, even greater karma. So the seeds have been planted. Sooner or later, at the right time, they will somehow benefit from it. Even Devadatta, as you know, he will be reborn in distant future as a Pachika Buddha, as an individual Buddha. But not in this sutta, there's no mention. So he probably, of course, I don't think he would dare to go back to his old ways because other monks will be watching. So there are Vinaya rules which maybe the Buddha might introduce Vinaya rules. Yeah. So the Buddha is not just going to sit back and let all these things go like that. He's going to introduce rules. Yeah. Next question. Yes.
What happened if the monks don't follow the Vinaya rules?
Sorry.
What happened if the monks don't follow the
Oh, then the layman have to take action. Because yes, you can. Because if you don't, who else is going to take action? Meaning is this. This is not a new idea. In fact, many of the rules in the Vinaya were introduced because lay people complained. Lay people, they came to the Buddha. For example, the rule about not eating, the monks not going out in the evening. Apparently, there was one time monks were allowed to go out in the evening after noon to collect, say, meal or not edible, allowable food. So it was very dark, and then this monk, monks are not supposed to talk when they go on the alms round, and those days the huts were very small in the village. So all the monk did was to stand in front of the door, and then someone would see and make offerings, or just keep quiet, nothing happens, the monk will go away. But it happened that day, it was rather dark, it was already evening, and there was a thunderstorm, and this poor woman was terrified of a thunderstorm, and suddenly there was this big flash, and she saw the monk at the door, she screamed, she said, "Oh, it's a ghost," and threw the pot washing on the monk. And then the monk went back and told the story to the Buddha. The Buddha said, "Okay, from now on," oh yeah, the husband roundly scolded the monk, said, "Why you frightened my wife?" So you can imagine it's a very difficult situation. So the Buddha said, from now on, monks are not allowed to go out in the evenings to collect food. So all this got to do with lay people. In fact, this is what the Vinaya is for. The Vinaya, number one, of course, is to help the monk practice the Dharma by removing distractions, number one. Number two is to safeguard lay people. Can you imagine if the monks got no Vinaya? What's going to happen? They come to you, they can do anything they want with you, and you don't know what to do. It'll be terrible, So they have very clear rules, and you can read the rules. You should know the rules. And if they break the rules, and there's no one you can turn to, then as a group here, through corporate action, you can say, we will have nothing to do with this monk. You can even put up a notice that says, we have nothing to do with this monk. No one can take you to court for that, because you have every right to say that. You say, this monk is not welcome here. You can even say why. Because you have to protect your children, you have to protect your members, you have to protect yourself against such people. And above all, you have to protect the quality of the Dharma. And if you don't do it, then this monk will say, oh, these lay people, they are like that. They are very easy to twist around your finger. Then we're in trouble. So you must speak up. Speak up at the right time, speak up properly, speak up as a delegation. Okay? I will speak up in talks. If I receive regular complaints, I will say publicly, and then somehow this news will get to the monk. You see? Well, there are such monks in Singapore, and I do speak up, and so you don't see them troubling people like you, but they are there. They only trouble people who come for magical things in Buddhism, who don't know the Dharma, so they will trouble these kind of people. That's why it's important to know the Dharma. We don't want to get into trouble. Otherwise, we are part of this bigger trouble, and in the end you find Buddhism is not a worthwhile religion to practice. So we must protect quality of the Dharma by speaking up when something is wrong. Remember, in the Buddha's time, there were even laymen who taught the Dharma to the monks, because the laymen, they were very good. Not everybody, but certain laymen, like Chitta, the house lord, And the king Bimbisara also encouraged the Buddha to introduce certain rules. For example, rules for keeping the Uposatha days, So these are all ideas from lay people. So the Vinaya is like a contract between monk and laity. Whereas Dharma is to teach both. So if a monk is not doing something right, we can gently, as a group, we say, Bhante, we prefer you don't do this. Please stop bringing women home at night. Please stop driving around town at night. And these are real cases, you got to tell them. If you don't, they say, committee say, okay. Lay people don't complain, right? So you also get the blame. So we must speak up also. If you think it's not right, tell them. But even then, I must tell you, they know, I say, don't come to SBM, it's a very good temple. Go to another place. So everybody must act together. This is another thing. Must be. But it's okay, you protect your place first. And if more people speak out that way, then in the end, the quality goes up. Whenever someone becomes a monk, they say, I think you've got to keep the precepts well. See, I hear stories like this. Monks come back to Singapore, young monks, They come back, they really want to practice, really want to meditate, really want to teach the Dharma. They have great ideals. Once they come back here, the older monks tell them, you better toe the line, listen to us. Otherwise, you don't stay here. These poor monks can't do anything. But if they know that lay people will support them and respect the way they respect the Dharma, then next generation you will have a new group of wonderful Dharma-loving, Dharma-guided Sangha. It's possible. It's possible. And I think it is happening now in very small ways. But you've got to quicken this a bit. So in other words, lay people must be proactive also. That's what the suttas is for. And the courage will come to you from the suttas. The more you understand the sutta, the more you meditate, the more you're at peace with yourself, the more you keep the precepts, the more you know what to do. Okay. So this is where, at the right time, if your mind is with the Dharma, you will know what to say, you will know what to do. Remember, we do this without hatred, with loving kindness, so that we want the Dharma to be protected and propagated. Otherwise, who can we wait to change? You don't expect anyone else to change. We got to start. Once you start, other people start following also. Good people start following. Remember, we need courage to do good. You need courage. Courage means not to fear being blamed. You do right, you do wrong, you get blamed, the Buddha said. Remember in the Dhammapada? You do right, you get blamed, you do wrong, you get blamed. So it's okay if you get blamed for doing right. That means the person is endorsing you have done the right thing. People have been blaming me for doing the right thing again and again. I say, thank you. Sometimes I get very old friends from some other elders. They say, hey, come, let's go for this course. I say, okay. And then you chit-chat in the car, then they'll tell me, say, why you write all this reflection? You like to attack people, As if I do nothing in the reflection, attack people. I say, which one is it? Because sometimes I make a certain remark. I may say, for example, monks don't touch money, they're like this, they can practice like that. So he thinks that I am attacking the monks. I said, no. But if you read carefully, if you don't say these things out, then people will know it is wrong. Now, if I know the sutta so well, and I know the conditions so well, and I keep quiet, I'm also part of the problem. So I'd rather be blamed than someone blaming me for not speaking up when I need to speak up. It's just like, okay, I'll tell you this really wonderful story, the local attitude of some of these people, This person staying in a very big new house. So she's not home, then these robbers came to the house one day to steal things. Nothing much to steal. The neighbor saw robbers in the house. So what did the neighbor do? Called her and said, wife, come and see, robber in the house. They stand there and look, Robber move in, move out, and they went away. And then the owners come back and call the police and so on, And then after that, the neighbor casually said, we saw the robber coming to your house, And then the owner said, why didn't you call the police? Why didn't you tell us, We could have been killed, So you imagine, they stand there and watch, instead of doing something. So, any normal concerned citizen, we do something. So in other words, we need to do something. We should not be afraid. If you're afraid to be blamed, it's okay to be blamed for the right thing. It's worse to be blamed for the wrong thing, right? So these are, of course, if you feel that maybe you don't have the courage to talk, maybe you feel that you don't know how to say it, then ask someone else, discover someone else. How can I present this case? I get a lot of that kind of feedback, I'm becoming like a magnet for all these sufferers, Recently I got this message, long email from a lady. She's overseas, one of those nuns, She said, I read your reflection. Yes, you're right. We suffer a lot, I've given up my nunhood. So much problems and politics, long email. She didn't give details. I don't know what it is. So I have to write a consoling letter to her. I can imagine, and I've seen her name somewhere with some organized big thing she's working on, So obviously something happened and she's not happy. And she got no one to turn to. She got no one to talk to. I don't even know her, but she wrote this long email to me. And I feel happy that she feels that I would be someone she can turn to. I don't know her. So in other words, we have a reputation, the mining center, is that when you are in trouble, you come to us. But I can tell you, I can't do much. All I can do is talk, make noise, But that noise can change things. It will change things.
You is making noise. To that person, you're very good.
But if the person is happy, I'm happy because, if I understand the Buddha's teaching, is if we can make another person feel safe after a problem, feel happy after difficulty, I'm very happy. So, and that's what we all can do. You don't need to be very special. You just need to put in extra effort. Don't be lazy. Just listen to this person. Try to be... Actually, listening is the most important thing. You don't have to give much advice. All right? And then you'll know what to say. Right? So I don't know how painful... I must imagine. I only can imagine how painful you feel. But if you want to talk to me, I'm here. Right? Something like that. It's not, listening also quite difficult. Because after a while you might say, oh yeah, same problem every time, It's not the same. Everyone's problem is different, although you hear the same words. Right? That's why this is one of what's called an occupational hazard for monks, We keep hearing the same problem, So one day when I was a young monk, I told my teacher, I said, I keep listening to all the same problem, Then the teacher said, well, you should be happy, They come with the same problem. Because if you come with a new problem you never heard before, it's more difficult for you. You don't know how to respond. So if you know something, you're familiar with it, it's easier to listen, in a sense. And maybe you're wiser in giving advice also, because you've heard that problem before. But remember, each person's problem is different. And one thing we never say is, it's all right. Remember, I told you this? Never say it's all right, Right? Someone comes here and says, my wife ran away already, And then you say, it's all right? Oh, no, you don't say that. You can say, never mind. Okay, that's different. You can say, never mind means what? Okay, don't think about it too much. Don't worry about it too much. Think on the positive side. Examine this wrong properly. Right? So don't take the easy way out also. Basically, as I said, listening is the best skill. Okay? So, yeah. Sure.
I got something to share. I just wonder what's your thought on this. I went to the gardens by the bay, and then I see this group of monks, enjoying themselves like tourists, and then carrying very expensive camera. Then my husband says, you always go temple, support monks. See, the camera is more expensive than ours. I wonder what's your thought on that, because I have no thoughts on that, because they happen to be monks.
Okay.
I can't think of what thoughts about it.
No, in a sense, what your husband says is true. But you should reply to him that you say, that's why I'm going to temple, you see. I'm reminding the monks not to carry expensive cameras. That's one way of answering.
But is it now very modern that we just can go tour? And
yeah, well,
okay,
I many times said that, there are some places monks are not supposed to go. Okay? I don't know about Gardens of the Bay, but there are rules. If a monk goes there, usually it should be attended by lay people. Okay, that's one way. Because sometimes lay people invite them. They say, let's go and see the garden. Okay, garden is okay, but if you go, say, City Square, or what is that, all that, the entertainment center.
I mean, just walking is okay, but the music, taking photos, then I feel it's a bit odd.
True, yeah. So this is where other monks will know they lack training. You see, because you won't see those good monks who give you meditation instruction, Dharma teachings there, right? I'm sure you won't see them there. You see them there, of course, there, you've got to go up and say, what are you doing here? You have a right to do that. I know there are lay people, lay teachers, when they see monks go to the bank with a lot of money and cashing in, and they will go up to the monk and say, "What are you doing? You're not supposed to handle money, and here you are putting money in the bank." And people will go up and tell this monk. I mean, of course, the monk may go on doing things, but at least they know there are other people aware that this is not right. So I don't know, you see, because the number of occasions I see this, like what you said. That's why sometimes I avoid going to these places. And I tell myself, I don't know what my children will think when they see all these people. So I will just turn away the other side. I say, let's go somewhere else. No, it is wrong, okay? And if they're well trained, they won't do those things. So you know those kind of monks, they're not well trained, okay? But not all monks are like that. Then there's another thing, you see sometimes lay people who have a lot of money, they don't follow the teaching, they buy all this expensive stuff for the monks. Usually the monks don't have the money to buy the stuff. Just there's another thing. Rolex watches and all this, they think, oh, it's big, merit to give all these things. That's wrong, If you give expensive watches, next life you only get expensive watches, That's not going to be very helpful for you, isn't it? That's not the way it works. That's not the way karma works. Like I said, you can also make house rules. If monks are staying here, say, these are the things don't do. No touring, except guided tours of temples, maybe. Something like that. You can, it can be gently firm, all right?
But it can't be so mean as you said they cannot go, but at least they're just walking, strolling, and looking around.
No, it's up to the committee.
For photos and all, then you feel this is so popular.
No, you must have some standards now, basically, the things which the public might criticize. Here you have another funny story, in Malaysia, real story. That once I stayed in this Thai temple, in Petaling Jaya, and beside the temple is a Christian college. They train pastors. And every year, this lecturer will send the young students. They're like early 20s, like most of them. And they'll be trained as pastors, and then when they graduate, they work as pastors. So he always sent them to study. There's a module on something like interreligious studies. So he always sent these young men, students, next door to the Thai temple to talk to the monks there. They say, you go there and talk to these monks, find out about Buddhism. Knowing very well, the monks there, and mostly young monks, there are hardly 5 or 10 of them, most of them are smoking, chit-chatting, can't speak English. So you can imagine the impression that these students get. They say, oh, the Buddhists are all like that, uneducated, smoking, But one day, I was living there, so these monks told them, hey, you must go and see Piya, So I met them, I was so happy to be there. I said, oh, good, he said, please, I'm very happy to discuss anything with you. He says, let's talk about Buddhism. I said, let's talk about Christianity. I said, which is easier to talk about. And I asked him some very difficult questions. So I told him, look, you're going to be pastors, right? I myself are like you, I'm like you. I teach the Dharma, and I know the problems of Buddhism. And the great thing is, these young people are very open. They say, very true, even in Christianity, there are some things you can't believe, so difficult to explain. I said, that's all you have to understand. I said, no, it's something else I have to tell you. You know why every year your lecturer asks you to come in here? Because these monks can't speak English, and some of them smoke, because they come from the poorer part of the country, not educated, all right? And in their culture, smoking is okay, right? But of course, I don't agree with that. So your lecturers can see you, they have a very bad impression of Buddhism. But I want to tell you, at least one of these monks can speak English to you and can speak intelligently and discuss things with you. And they're so happy, So can I come back? Can we come back and see you again? I said, sure, next Saturday. And then next Saturday, nobody came. I saw them on the road, I met one day, I said, hey, why did you come? He said, my pastor said you are very dangerous. I take that as a compliment. You see the point. They want to show, they give a wrong impression of Buddhism. So what I'm saying, who is the quality controller? You and I. You and I. So we got to set some standards, at least in our own homes. This is your home here. Right? You're not hurting anybody, but you're protecting the Dharma in that sense. And I think more and more people are aware of this nowadays. For example, in US, they now have a council, Buddhist Ethical Council, to set standards for lay people, mind you, not for monks, for lay people. so that the teachers, the counselors, and they practice properly. Any other questions? Yeah.
In this parable of the soul,
Mm-hmm.
applies more for Arahant than lay person or only monk. Can't follow.
Arahat for them is natural, no problem. Maybe for streamliners and the other two says they need a bit of effort, yeah. And some strong-willed followers. Like I said, yeah, the parable of the saw is very difficult to follow. But I suspect, having heard the sutta, when you are confronted with such a situation, I think you will naturally remember this. You will know what to do. Because remember, what the Buddha is trying to say is very simple here. No? You talk about, even on Abhidhamma side, this robber is sawing this man to harm, he's going to die. So if the person is dying, he must have loving kindness. So if he died with anger, he will be born as a preta or asura or some unhappy ram, isn't it? So if it's natural, if someone is killing this person, he must have loving kindness. I mean, the dying person must show loving kindness because he's dying, you see. So that he must die happily, so he's reborn happily. So actually it's a strategy. So you look from another angle, the Buddha is not just talking about Dharma, he's talking about Abhidhamma also in a sense. To die with your mind at peace. You must see it that way also. So does it make more sense now, you know? Two aspects, right? So we have no choice at that time because, you know, our life is going to end already. You must show loving kindness. So this is last, what do you call it? Extreme measure. Last, last thought moment. Sorry?
Last goodbye.
Yeah, sort of, yeah. So you make sure you go away at peace with yourself. So people can hurt you, but they cannot prevent you from a good rebirth.
I have yet to accept it. Imagine myself dying, somebody cutting my head and leg. I don't think I can keep quiet.
I know, it's painful. But you know, you don't be surprised. You're stronger than you think. You know, I mean, you imagine yourself when you face some kind of serious problem with someone. I mean, I'm not talking about this terrible cutting up. You know, just you notice when you are in difficulty with some people. At some point in your heart, you say, "How can I make sure this problem doesn't become worse than it is? In fact, how can I make this problem go away?" You try in your mind, that is the idea. So you try to minimize suffering. We have that attitude. So all that sutta is trying to say for us is try to minimize suffering, increase the chances of solving the problem, making more and more people happy. Okay, on that note, let me introduce this new book, because we have a few more copies left. It's called Meditation, a Safety Guide. Some of you got it already, right? This one is compilation of teaching all the writings about meditation, how to practice it safely, how to overcome some problems and so on. About nimitta, about jhana, how to attain jhana, about layman, whether you need jhanas or not. And then in jhana, do you have thinking or not? Things like that. These are some of the topics dealt here. This is volume 1. Volume 2 will be dealing with the hindrances, meditation, overcoming the hindrances. This one we are raising funds for the TMC Mining Center. So this is $20 each if you want it. Yeah? Have a look. You can pass around first a second.
I have a copy.
Let's just sit quietly for a short while, just to finish up. Okay, so today we've come to the conclusion of our study of the Kakachupama Sutta, a very powerful sutta on patience and non-violence. This sutta gives us a very high standard of kindness. Although we might not be able to follow it completely, when we are really come to a point when we are tested, I am quite confident we will know what to do, the right thing. Doing good is not always easy. It needs a lot of courage. But remember, it is better for us to be blamed for doing right than to be praised for doing wrong. With that kind of thought, we create a lot of wonderful good karma. By the power of such karma, through many other good deeds you have done, through our faith in the three jewels and practice of the precepts, our generosity and other good practices. May we attain spiritual liberation, namely strength winning, in this life itself. In this moment of peace, let us share our loving kindness with everybody who comes here. With all the beings here, may they be well and happy. And also to those people the Dharma have not touched, that they may rejoice in the Dharma and attain awakening in this life too. May all beings be well and happy.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.